Attempt number 2 at this video. For some reason it just cut out. The usual sort of shenanigans. Expect the unexpected. Anyway, here we are in this temporary recording studio. It's a perfect reflection what the universe is showing. It's not going to be here forever. As a vehicle, it is defunct, but it serves a purpose, and it is a Renault Kangoo. If you look at it as if it was said in English, it's a French word, but Renault is like Renault. So it's re-zero. Come back to the nothingness. Come back to the center, to the whole. That's what the zero is. It's a whole. Oh, look, I'm doing one of those signs. But that is the number of man anyway, the 666. Don't be fooled by that. That's just one polarity. But anyway, it's a Renault can go. Because we are going somewhere, but we're not physically going anywhere. This reality reflects. It is all an external reflection. The answer is actually as clear as day. Let me ask you a question. How do you sort out a candle flame without harming it anyway, without extinguishing it, without snuffing it out? But it loses its light, shall we say. The answer is as clear as day. You've only got to look at the daytime sky. Where are the stars? Why can you not see the stars? Are they there or are they not there? The reason that the external vision can't sense or see the stars is because it is outshone by a greater light. Now let's put this into a context. Maybe end of school exams. The majority of the class have scored, say, 60 or 70 points, but there is one pupil that has scored 95. You could say that that pupil has outshone the rest of the class. Now, when you consider the external reality is a reflection, what therefore is that sun reflecting? What is it showing us? Surely the embodiment, the U-inverse, the universe, all you are required to do is shine. Shine brighter than you have ever shone before. That light is within you. There are two suns. It is often talked about on many videos across many channels. That is also an external. What about the two internal suns? One is not I, but the Christ within. The other one is the bringer of the light, the Lucifer. That is the prodigal son that goes out into the world, replicates, thinks it knows better, creates a carbon copy, creates things that are finite. The only way it can achieve infinity is through recycling. You've only got to look at what happens in nature, what happens with these physical remains. The energy changes form, but it is not lost. It is still here. It is part of this physical reality. That is just the embodiment that you are in. You can see also, if you see the physical body as like a car, that becomes a body. Look at the modern cars. They have sensors all over them and those glaring LED lights going towards your eyes, which are not going to do you a lot of good. That's a whole another topic. LED, being LED, LED. The clues in the words every time. But the modern vehicle is hypersensitive. You'll see that reflected in when you'll see these videos. Doesn't matter whether it's people acting, whether it is people really having a meltdown. They don't like this or that person being elected. The voting didn't go they want. They have this meltdown because they're not in control of their vessel. They've allowed emotions, energy motions, to rock their vessel. They have become hypersensitive, just like the modern motor vehicle. It's a reflection of the physical body. The physical body will carry you places. Is that not what a vehicle does? It carries you from one place to another. And of course, just like with the external physical vehicle, the physical body, you'll see this particularly in car parks, in petrol stations, where people will look round at other people's cars and they make a judgment, my car's better than your car. It's all very egoic. But remember that Lucifer is a necessary step. It follows a pattern. This is something that Archaics talks about, the patterns. Neville Goddard talks about the pattern man. There's a biblical quote, eat all that is put in front of you. So what I am suggesting, that you take the ingredients of these archetypes, the good, what you would perceive as the good and the bad, and you make them your own. Let's explain this another way. You are required to be a destroyer as much as you are a creator, because we're in a realm of duality. But what are you destroying? There is no crime when there is no body. What you are destroying is the influence of that Luciferic principle that is in each of us. It has to be in each of us, because it's pushing us to go out in the world to seek. It is trying to, through these physical beings, it is trying to undo problems. It's trying to sort out its own problems. But the supreme creator, the oversoul, God, whatever you want to call it, is all loving. It will welcome back that son that has gone out and had experience. And I'm saying S-U-N, not S-O-N. The light bearer is a son. It has a counterpart, which is the Christ consciousness within you as well. It is just simply learning the universal language before the Tower of Babel. The tower was what reached up to the pineal gland. The universal language was never a verbal language. It was the language that you can speak to a baby. It is the language you can communicate with trees. It is the language you can communicate with pretty much anything. I had someone only today scanning me, not understanding the energy that I'm radiating out, partly looking fearful, partly looking shocked, surprised, bemused. I almost went up and said, penny for your thoughts. What is it that you're reading? What aspect are you picking up on? It requires you to be the destroyer of the sun, as it were, taking away the power, the impulse, the influence of the Luciferic principle, taking it back home, taking it back to the Father, to use that same sort of biblical analogy. Because that's all they are. They're stories said in a language of a time to interpret. I know this to be true because I am proving this every day. Every day is one of gratitude. Let me put it another way, the way Ken Wheeler explains it. Now, most people are amazed by the explosion, the extrinsic loss of energy of an atom bomb that looks very much like a human brain. But that is a loss of the energy. But the real power is the intrinsic value, the dielectric, the potential of what radiates out. But it's not a destructive bomb. It is something creative, it is something loving. It is, to many, the unthinkable to embrace the Lucifer. Now, Lucifer, following the same pattern as its creator, and went out, thought it knew best, and created a carbon copy world that is finite, created a shadow. So therefore, if you take back the Lucifer and bring it under control, the shadow relies on the light. It will get rid of the Ahrimanic principle that has no right to live, because that is not from creation. That is from a mistake of something that was created, but to test things out. In the same way, the analogy I use is, are you going to build a kit sports car and then just put it all together and just sit there and look at it? Or are you going to get in it? Are you going to get into that vehicle? Are you going to have the sensation? What does it feel like? How fast will it go? Can I throw it into the bends? How quick will it brake? How are you going to know until you experience that which you create? This world is very much backwards. It's all reflections. It is all a bounce back. So things that we would see as negative are actually prompts. There are no mistakes. What is really happening is the Luciferic impulse is leading you on a problem-solving quest when there is no problem. So going back to the magnet, what draws two magnets together is not the magnetism, it is the dielectric, the 0 point, right at the centre of the magnet, where there is nothing impeding the bringing together of that dielectric from those two magnets. So to put it in the context, every time you create a thought, every time that Luciferic impulse comes up and says, but I can't do that, I haven't got this, oh, how am I going to afford that, oh, what if this happens, what if that happens, and so on and so on, and it's creating problems that are not there. What that does is create an electrical interference with the dielectric. The saying about you are your own worst enemy comes to mind here. What effectively is happening when you are creating those negative thoughts of why you cannot do something, you are putting an interference which is causing a feedback loop, which is preventing the magnetism from actually working. You are your own worst enemy. That is the brilliance of this entire reality, of this entire game. Because what would be the ultimate adversary than yourself? Your lower conscious self that knows you better than you know yourself, until you discover yourself and discover who you truly are. Now, what I'm advocating here, it follows a pattern, and this pattern is going to play out. Time will tell. Everything is subject to time. I listened to a very brilliant Alan Watts lecture on 7 Reasons God Ends Relationships. That is worth listening to. I think that's the title. I'll put the link in the description under this video. See things in a whole new way, not from that negative polarity. You have that internal pole shift. You now see it from both sides, because it's about that middle pillar, that middle path. Being in the balance, playing the 0, the big 0 again, the fool, not a care in the world, not rocked by emotions this way or that way. When you feel triggered by anything that you hear or see, whatever it is, don't go on the attack in reaction. Go inward and ask yourself, what is it? Why am I feeling triggered by this? Is it because I believe something and this, what I'm now hearing, is contradicting with what I believe? You see, the thing is, when you come from a place of experience, like learning to drive a car, for example, you're explaining it to someone who has no idea, never sat in a car or whatever. Are they going to believe you? The only way they're going to know is to experience the driving for themselves, to do it. It is about taking active steps in whatever it is. But driving, I find, is a brilliant analogy, because with driving, There are many other factors involved. There is a continuous changing scene. It is all about keeping with the flow. It is in continuous flux. So therefore, be prepared for the unexpected. Be aware when you're driving. It is a perfect pattern to adopt for that internal fool's journey. The fool's journey is the hero's journey. You have to have the fall. If you don't have the fall, how do you find rock bottom? The saying is, when you hit rock bottom, you can't go any lower. The only way then is up. But in doing so, through that perceived negative experience, what you're actually doing is finding the solid foundation on which you build. That is also reflected in architecture in this physical reality. A solid foundation is required to put any building upon it. As within, so without. As within, so without. So I am inviting you all to embrace that Lucifer, that little voice that is trying to lead you this way or that way. Embrace it and say, come on, we're going home. Recognize it is a necessary part of you. It is not evil. This is not a soul trap. When you step through to Devacon, to the astral plane, and to beyond that, you will know that this is a beautiful experience. It is not a soul trap. Why would you not want to come back here? Why would you not want to go through this experience and try and help others to find it on their individual path? Alan Watts put it very beautifully that people will come into your life for a season. If we look at this as if we're looking down on the back of a pocket watch with all the cogs and mechanisms, there's wheels within wheels. Leave aside whether you think it's a flat earth, a globe earth, a hollow earth, or whatever. From the perspective of being on the earth, it would appear that the sun is going round, it makes a circle. So does the moon, so do the stars. They follow a season, as it were. They're on different diameter cogs. Day and night, they're on a cog, and you'll have greater times of light, you'll have greater times of darkness, but they all equinox. They come back to balance between the two. So embrace what is in some ways like a retarded child, that Luciferic principle that went out in the world, created a world, and thought it knew best. Can we see any evidence of this? Well, I've mentioned this before. When Jesus, this Christ being, is tempted by the devil, and the devil says, if you bow down before me, all this can be yours, all the finite material. But notice that the Christ being does not reply, well, who gave you authority over this? It's almost acknowledged that there is a God of this world that is not the oversoul, not the supreme God that created everything, that will also have created the Lucifer principle, which also led to the Aramanic principle, because light always has a shadow, especially even if it's a false light, an illumination. But it's just bringing it back to center, take it back into the heart. It follows the same pattern. If the Creator, the Supreme Being, is all loving, why would you want to be horrible to... It's like if you encounter a child that is disabled anyway, or retarded, cerebral palsy, or whatever, any of these labels, are you going to go, keep that child away from me, it disgusts me, or whatever, because it's dribbling, or whatever? There's a Christ being in that being. Right, recomposure, because that really, when I put it in that analogy, it hurts. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, especially when you know the reasons as to why that child has what many people would see as a defect. But celebrate those beings because they chose to come in and have that experience. When you've got infinite rides, unlimited rides in this physical reality, why wouldn't you want to experience the whole spectrum? How can you have 360 all-round vision without experiencing everything? But it is not a soul trap. Except to one. That is the shadow, that is the Ahriman. Whereas the Creator fell into the dream, the shadow of Lucifer fell into the computer, you could say. It is stuck in a computer. It is looking for a way out. It may well, through predictive values, even be able to find a way out. But it is all in hand. There is nothing to fear whatsoever. But if you create those negative thoughts of what ifs, and I can't, and all these limitations upon yourself, what do you think you're going to draw towards yourself? Go out into the world without a care in the world. Whereas in this physical reality, if you eat too much food, you have indigestion. In the spiritual energy sense, what you have is indigestion. What is reflected in the physical when you feel like, oh, I've eaten a big meal, I better sit down for an hour, let this settle. Well, the energy from what the universe is reflecting back is saying allow time for that revelation to be digested inwardly. Because it is feeding and strengthening that sun inside you, the Christ within. All you have to do is step aside. Let that being rise within you. Don't build a Tower of Babel that's going to collapse. Actually make it. Build a Jacob's ladder. Get right up there. It will happen when you stop creating the negative electrical thoughts that will interfere with the magnetism. It is up to you whether you believe this. It is up to you whether you try this for yourself. But it is coming from a place of experience. Every day I am proving this. I could have that negative polarity of, oh, I'm down to one loaf of bread. Where am I going to get the next one? I haven't got any money. See the thoughts I'm putting out into the field from that are going to reflect just that back. The very thing that I do not wish for. Now don't get me wrong. I never get more than is required. But I do have an abundance, and I can testify that this is working. Many channels I've heard the presenters moaning about getting strikes, about getting videos removed. I've had videos removed from this channel. But what is that really reflecting? That is saying, it's not that you can't say something. What it is saying is use your creativity, use your imagination, say it in ways it has not been said before. Get round the algorithms. It is actually helping and guiding if you stop seeing it from a purely negative point of view and see it from a neutral standpoint and see that, okay, I can't say it this way because it's got certain words that are going to flag up to the censorship. And I leave myself wide open. I mean, would you build a house with only 3 walls and have one side completely open? Or maybe a castle where you have an enemy? Are you going to leave one side open where you can be attacked? Or are you going to be more creative and encase yourself? That is why it is about go within oneself, into that seed. That seed will break open. It will grow. It will create like a giant beanstalk. It will take you to pineal. It will take you into a you-inverse that is far greater than this perceived what is out there, when there's nothing actually out there. There is to a certain point, but then you'll hit the Dyson shell. And that's as far as you're going to go. We're in basically a cosmic egg. But it is all a game. It is full of stories. But start looking at what is the universe reflecting back to me with everything, every experience. Why has this person come into my life? Why has that person gone out of my life? When you start asking those inward questions, just ask the questions, think no more of it. The answers will come as mind pictures. It will communicate in the language before the Tower of Babel, which is in feeling, which if you have been into the astral plane, or you've been into Devacon, if you've had a out-of-body experience, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. It is like a telepathic communication in feeling. There are no words. It is only in this physical reality that the word became flesh, because the flesh is to do with the physical world. Look very carefully at what these passages, particularly in the Bible, say as much as what they don't say, and what they reveal and what they don't say. Does that make sense? But just appreciate that you are in a realm of contrast. Do not suppress the pain, otherwise you will not experience the joy. The pain is an alert. It's a sensation for you to then say, hold on, what is the body telling me here? The body is telling on the mind. It is learning that universal language. That is the universal language before the destruction of the tower and created a load of Babel. But this is all in the spiritual, in the energy, but it is reflected out, and it's a repeat pattern. What starts in the unseen becomes manifest in the seen, whether it be good or bad. It is all created from whatever we think. But be careful where those thoughts are coming from. Is it coming from that Luciferic principle, or is it coming from that Aramanic principle, or is it coming from the heart? Whew. I hope that didn't sound like a rant. It's just more, I'm bursting with energy to share this, because it is as clear as day. Outshine, not in the physical egoic sense, it's an inside job. Outshine that Luciferic light bringer with a greater light that absorbs it, that does not destroy it, but because it is a part of you. Why would you want to discard it? It is a very necessary part, because it is your greatest teacher in many ways. It is just simply learning that lesson of the language of that internal dialogue. So, as always, unconditional love to you all. I'm not going to say Happy New Year, because that's a man-made concept. Every day is a new year. Every day is a new day. What time you class as a starter day, that's another academic question, really. The devil is always in the detail. It is whatever it is to you. So I hope this has brought a bit of clarity of what is plainly shown as clear as day, and why we have to adopt all the roles. We have to be the destroyer as much as we have to be the creator, or the recreator, the co-creator. Build something better, build back better. Look how many times you've heard that saying in the external material context. But consider what it really means with your true wealth, your currency, not the currency of physical paper money, but the currency, the thing that you have a finite amount of in this physical experience. That is time, and time will always tell. So I don't care whether you believe me or don't believe me about what Archaics talks about the return of the vapor canopy. You're going to find out in just under 18 years. It's not long to wait. Time can be collapsed, time can be stretched. You all have the ability to do that. When you create a thought, do as Neville Goddard says, remember the future. So look what you're doing with time. You're drawing it to you far quicker. The more you do this, the more you practice, the more it will become. And look at the pattern there. Did you come into this world knowing the 12 times table, or was it something you learnt through repetition? So what about internalizing that same pattern of repetition? And I can give you testimony that it does work, and it gets easier and easier to do. It becomes just a mere passing thought, because the universe has got your back. When you feel that, and when you really know that inside yourself, there is nothing to fear. This becomes the most beautiful experience to which you really will want to come back in again. Or you have the choice, you can go on to have a magical experience in maybe 6 or 7 or 8 dimensions, who knows? But let's make the best of it in this 4-dimensional reality that people think is 3. Because what about that dimension called time? That is your 4th dimension. The other 3 are part of space. Nothing to do with out there, it's just measurement between 2 objects. That is what space is. Up there is just a reflection. Everything is on the rebound. All you got to do is consider that it's a mirror, therefore the reflection shows the opposite. So just consider there's a mirror. And then consider what that reflection is really showing. So I hope that has helped clarify things for you, giving a new way of looking at things. Hope it has uplifted you in some way. And as always, unconditional love to you all.